focused on Dish Media. Dish Media, we help provide data-driven solutions, television solutions to marketers. We help their TV buys become smarter. Most addressable, most particularly addressable television. It's something that we helped pioneer about 8 years ago, and we've certainly developed a certain expertise in that area. And when we execute buys addressably, we execute them across Dish Media as well as Sling TV and across both OTT and satellite. And we do that through ComScore. And we also, as I said, own and operate Sling TV, and that has a very robust programmatic solution in the marketplace. But enough about me and Dish Media. I'm joined by David here, David Knapp. So welcome, David.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the conversation. And why don't we just jump in and just start off with you introducing yourself and what you do at American Express. Maybe give us a little sense of your team and the focus.
Sure. So as you said, I'm David Knapp. I'm the Director of Customer Site and Paid Media at American Express. And I lead a high-performance, happy team focused on predicting customer needs and driving business growth in our customer digital channels. Specifically, that's the logged in customer site. I formerly ran an email marketing team, and I'm also expanding into paid media this year. And we are relentlessly curious and data obsessed.
That's great. So in our prep conversation, you mentioned 3 key pillars that kind of drive, that's your kind of North Stars, if you will, on a day-to-day basis: content, data, and technology. I'd love to hear, just you kind of contextualize that and give the audience a sense of what that means to you and how you execute that.
Yeah, so before I get into those 3 pillars, I just want to set the stage a little bit with some context.
Sure.
I remember when I was trying to break into digital marketing and I had started my career in brand strategy. I opened up my own retail strategy consulting business at one point, and I was finishing up my MBA. And everyone was telling me that I should be an unpaid junior intern if I wanted to break into digital. And I thought, I don't think that's going to work financially, based on ROI for this MBA. But fortunately, American Express thought that I had some transferable skills. And so they took a chance on me and gave me an email marketing team to run. And I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And so I called together a lot of different disparate voices to figure out what to do. And what I found out is that you really need, like I said, 3 things: content, data, and technology. So I'll walk you through each one. Content is about ensuring that we're speaking in a human voice and that the message that we deliver to the customer is relevant to them. For data, it's about figuring out what information do we have from all of our different data sources to match that content to the individual customer, and then also how we're going to track and measure performance. And then thirdly is technology, and that's super important. And that brings me back to my original story of, trying to break into digital. I understand why a lot of digital natives think that you can't break into digital from a different discipline. And it's because you have to have a certain base level of understanding of data and technology in order to imagine the most innovative experiences. So for example, one of the acronyms that I don't really love is EM, because an email is not a scan of a postcard, a direct mail postcard. It is not the same thing as direct mail. There's so much more that you can do with an email if you understand how to stitch together the data sources and leverage technology. So those are our 3 pillars.
Great, that's great context. All right, so you're using email to reach out to your customer base. Give us some a sense of who your customers are, and I'm sure that it ranges, but just broadly, I'd love to hear some details on that.
Yeah, I love operating at the scale of American Express, and for the segment that I'm focused on with my team, it's the small business owners who have an existing card relationship with American Express. And because they're already existing customers, we know a lot about what they're spending on, what they're engaging in from a marketing perspective, and what tools and solutions we can offer them that are going to be most relevant. And what I've found is that small business owners love their businesses. And so the more we can reflect their business in our communications back to them so that it's like they're looking in a mirror, the more they're going to engage. And I've also found that small business owners are busy people. And so we have to make sure we get straight to the point with direct and tangible value, and not romantic, flowery language.
Got it. Okay. And then, so what's the cadence is a monthly email, you had said?
Yeah. When I was running email marketing, I produced what became the #1 outbound loyalty marketing communication for American Express. And that is our monthly e-newsletter program. And with that program, we really are able to make the customer the hero of their own email inbox. And I'll give you an example of what that email might sound like. So it would say, "Dear Jim, happy Tuesday. Thank you for being an American Express card member since 2001. At this moment in time, you have 64,589 membership awards points in bank. I see that you've booked a trip to Miami. Don't forget that you have access to the Centurion Lounge with your Platinum card. And oh, by the way, you have $125 left on your $200 annual airline fee credit." And then once we've demonstrated with that at the top of the message, all of those data points that we've stitched together and brought to the customer, we show that we know them, we show that we care about them, and we're able to then get them to scroll to the bottom of the email, which we've tested through eye tracking, and find out that they'll read about something like a business financing solution that we might offer them if we understand that they might have some cash flow needs based on seasonality of their business, or whatever other solutions or tools we can offer to help them grow their business.
Got it. It's great. It's using the data of their, their, everyday, business dealings and week in, week out, but then using that and turning it into a potential solution for them, which I think is a great tact. I'm sure trying to, work across a large organization like American Express, it can be tough to gain cross-functional, buy-in, or whether it be buy-in across your customer base. When you're talking about multi-year initiatives, particularly when there's like a year-end fiscal goal, we all have, those short-term. So just curious how you guys approach that and what kind of success you've had in terms of that.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, when I started out in this role, I was convinced that I would immediately be fired. So that allowed me to take a lot of big risks. And one of the things I did was I noticed that our senior leaders were doing all of these summits. They call these big meeting summits. And I realized the bigger your meeting, the more important you are. So I invited everyone that I worked with into a room. I called it a summit for digital innovation. And I threw out a lofty goal, which was 10x growth on our email program. And I had the technology team, I had the marketing team, I had product marketing, product management, risk, legal, compliance. Everybody was in the room. And what we found out is there's over 100 people that have to push a button in order to get our email out the door. It was amazing. And we threw out that goal. And then I also brought in external agencies. And because remember, I had absolutely no clue what I was doing. So I needed someone to share industry best practices, competitive intelligence, some kind of new stimuli that could get the group to think outside of our blue box four walls. And it didn't hurt that the agencies also brought free bagels because it was a breakfast meeting. I wanted to make sure.
You got to throw some chum in the water.
Get everybody in the room. And I thought, all right, forget about in-year goals because I think it was October. It was the end of the year when I started. And what can we do next year that will deliver? And we came up with this idea to build an API technology that would allow us to curate disparate data sources into one communication. And it was a pretty hefty investment, but together we were able to co-create that vision and make the business case to spend what was 20% over the budget. I remember at one point there was a decision note. It was okay, we can build the technology just for your one use case, or we can build an enterprise solution that 300 email marketers can use. And there was actually debate about this. And I thought, well, as a shareholder, let's just do the one for the enterprise and I'll worry about being over budget by 20% later. And we built it, it's working, and it powers the communication I told you about, as well as a lot of other communications.
Yeah, but that's a great example of just just leadership, whether it be marketing or whatever silo you're in, but just pulling together. So many marketers work across, and American Express is probably the ultimate example or one of them. Large organization where there's agendas, there's all sorts of deadlines and pressures, and be able to lead in that situation is critical. And kudos to you.
Thank you.
So the other thing you mentioned is just because you could make a great souffle, or just because you have a passion for a small business, doesn't mean you're trained as a business leader. You're not formally trained if you're a small business, and those are just two examples, obviously. But a lot of these people are very passionate and very talented, but they don't have, let alone an MBA, they don't have formal basic business training. And that's another great area that American Express's services just come into play to really elevate, the solution and just the day-to-day results. So I'd love to hear about that, please.
Yeah, in addition to the products and services that we offer for sale, we have a lot of free resources. And I can brag a little bit about a program from a sister team called Business Class. And it's something that started last year, and it's really incredible. They have educational content that's free for small business owners or anyone that wants to read it, including articles online. There's a daily e-newsletter. One of the things I love is the Instagram live sessions that they do with small business owners and CEOs and entrepreneurs. And they talk about real day-to-day challenges. So for example, last year they did an event with Joey Gonzalez, who's the CEO of Barry's Bootcamp, which is a fitness center that I love to attend on occasion. And they talked about what was it like to own a boutique studio at the beginning of the pandemic, and how did they adapt their business for the virtual environment. And all of the content that Business Class Live is creating has incredible reach because it's available free and virtually.
And then, so the program is called Business Class?
Business Class, yep.
Got it. Anything else on Business Class you want to share?
Like flying business class, but it's also like a course that you don't get a degree yet. Maybe that's something we'll come out with, but it's
got it. Yeah.
Educational content for anyone that's interested in learning how to grow their business, and it's free stuff.
Yeah. What's been some of the feedback from the small business owners from taking these classes?
The customers are loving it because, for example, the daily newsletter, when the pandemic hit, there were a lot of people that were saying, "Oh, should we stop talking about ourselves, or should we stop sending communications to our customers?" And we went from a weekly newsletter to actually a daily newsletter because we had double the open rates. Customers were really engaged, and they wanted to understand what are other small business owners doing, and how do we navigate this incredibly uncertain time?
Yeah, I mean, talk about a guiding light during a murky time for all of us a year ago, which is great. So another big initiative for American Express that seemed to be somewhat reignited, I should say, is investing in Black-owned businesses, and that's nothing new for American Express. But love to hear maybe some of the background on that, and then some of the things you've reinstituted or elevated, if you will, over the last year to 18 months.
Yeah, so American Express has always backed different communities, and what we noticed is that there are some groups that were facing disparate challenges, especially during the pandemic, and specifically Black-owned businesses we wanted to support. We launched a $1 billion action plan where we're going to enhance our diverse representation and promote equal opportunities for colleagues, customers, and communities. And I really like that it's not just about one thing. We are spending a tremendous amount of money, $750 million in procurement dollars in the US with Black-owned businesses. But it's not just about spending money, it's also about providing the resources and educational opportunities. For example, we have a 100 for 100 program, which was based on an insight that female Black entrepreneurs are the fastest growing segment in the small business landscape. And we wanted to support them with things like mentorship, access to funding, and grants, different things to support the community. So we also are backing our colleagues, and I'm really excited about the fact that we have had incredible content and diversity, equity, inclusion training for colleagues, and we've been able to bolster our diverse recruitment efforts, which have really helped my team as well.
Terrific, terrific. I mean, it sounds like American Express and your team specifically are leading in that area, which is great to hear. Kudos to you. Anything else on the coalition to back Black businesses? Is there anything specifically there?
So there's a $1 million grant program for backing historic small businesses, and there's a focus on backing historic small restaurants, which are also small businesses. And there's a focus on those that are owned by underrepresented communities. There's a ton of different initiatives and activities in this space, and I'd encourage people to visit our website for more information.
Got it. Great. All right. I mean, we've all experienced this great change over the last 12, 18 months in the world, broadly, obviously, and that's certainly affected small businesses. But what is it that you and your team have done? Are there any pivots? What's different between 2021 versus 2020? 2020, for instance.
Yeah, when we started 2020, my team was strictly an acquisition engine. So everything we did was focused on hitting a revenue target. And when we had to pause some of our programs in COVID, we stood up a really robust loyalty strategy that was focused on backing our customers, helping them maximize their membership with American Express, reinforcing the benefits of the products that we'd already sold them. And then, in typical corporate fashion, when we started to reactivate acquisition, we didn't shut off the loyalty. So now we have a hybrid approach. My team is actually delivering 4 times as many personalized treatments as they were 2 years ago. So it's an incredibly exciting time to be in the digital marketing space. And it's really about centering customer needs and making sure that we're predicting what the customer needs and then tailoring the communication for them. So it's not just about buy this product. It's really more of a full funnel approach where you think about, does this customer need to be made aware of the fact that we're not just a credit card company and we also have lending solutions for helping them scale their business? Or is this customer starting to travel a lot and we need to convert them on a Platinum Card upgrade because we know that they're going to see a lot of benefits there? Or is it someone that already has the right product set, but maybe they're not making the most of their membership? So we find what are some of those lesser known benefits. There's over 40 benefits on the Platinum Card. So we pick out which ones are going to be most relevant for them and then tailor that content to that customer. So it's really broadened our perspective on what kind of content belongs in our channels and what's going to help the customer get what they need.
So you said there's 40 different, can you give us a couple examples of those?
Of the Platinum Card benefits?
Yes, please.
So for example, there's a lot of travel benefits like the airline fee credit. We also have bonus points in certain categories like on airfare. When it's booked with American Express Travel. There are, one of my favorite benefits is the purchase protection program, where if you break something or it gets lost or stolen, depending on which state you're in, the insurance regulations are a little bit different, which makes it really tricky to market. But that's a really great benefit. It's like a little supplemental insurance baked into the card. Those are just a few. Great.
Terrific. And you mentioned, the travel, because that's, myself, my colleagues, we're traveling, we that started about a month and a half ago in more earnest. I'm sure that's the case, but do you notice that, or is it only some specific small business owners that are traveling more? Or is that a broader trend there at all?
We've definitely seen the return to travel in full force on the consumer side. I think in small business, one of the things I think is super interesting, and I haven't drilled into this data, but I'll just tell you anecdotally, I remember when the pandemic hit and everyone thought business travel is over. We're never going back after Zoom. And I thought, well, what if you're in a different time zone? You know, like we do business with Sydney. You know, we have offices in Sydney and Asia, and it's like I think sometimes it's helpful just to be in the same time zone, even if you're not in the same conference room.
Yeah.
So I definitely think business travel will make a comeback, especially for building the relationships at the beginning.
Yeah, nothing replaces that face-to-face interaction. You can engage in a screen, but it's you're gonna influence more face-to-face, obviously, and that goes whether you're dealing with corporate or you're dealing with small business, no question.
Yeah, and we, because business owners travel, we also offer employee cards, which helps when, if the business owner is not there, you're able to issue employee cards to people within your business to help keep the business running when you're not in the room to make that purchase. That's particularly helpful, like if you're on a construction site, there's multiple properties and locations, and you don't want the boss to have to be there to like buy an extra wrench or something. And then we also have expanded buying power, which helps with, as your business is growing, your spend capacity can increase based on, obviously how the risk modeling works out, but we're able to make sure we're able to provide that financing to the customers as they need it.
Got it. So you have platinum, you have gold, and blue. Are those the three cards that you're?
So those are the main products that we're acquiring on, but then we also have a lot of, we're expanding well beyond the card. So we have recently acquired Kabbage, which allows us to offer a line of credit to businesses as well as a business checking account.
What is Kabbage?
So Kabbage is a fintech startup that we acquired, and it allows us to offer a line of credit and business checking account to our customers, and a lot of really exciting, there's a lot of really exciting things happening in that space right now. Like I said, we're not just a credit card company anymore. We provide a full range of business financing solutions and educational resources for our customers.
Got it. This was not anything we discussed, but I'm just curious. Is there anything like where either a customer, or not a specific customer, but any where, like, what have you learned in terms of your customer base in terms of over the last year? They're traveling more, but have they've pivoted in a number of ways? There's any insight or any examples that you'd like to say, yeah, this would be worth sharing?
Yeah, I would say that our customers like free stuff and bonus points. So the more that we can deliver tangible value to them, we've done extensive A/B testing, and they want us to get straight to the point. They're super busy. We've also noticed that customers are responding much more heavily to anything that's personalized to them. Like I said, they really expect us to know them and only talk to them about things that are relevant. And we have, one of the things I'm very proud of is our test and learn framework. It's super robust. And what I've noticed is a lot of people do testing in sort of a scattershot manner where they're just like, let's just try a lot of new things. It's like, and then they turn it over to a data team and they're like, give me an insight about this marketing campaign that we just ran on it. And that's not the best way to operate. What we do is we want to identify like, what are the scalable learnings that we can create with this test? What do we truly want to learn that we don't already know? If we knew that it was going to work, we should just launch it at scale. And then we prioritize based on effort versus impact. And we're looking at things like content optimizations and targeting optimizations, and really anything we can do to drive relevance. That's our team's secret sauce. So I say like reach times relevance equals results. And for me, the theme I think of this event is consumer engagement, and what is more and more important is delivering that personalized solution and that relevance so that you're not just sending the same message to your entire list every day. You're really being thoughtful about what does this customer need? And we're able to overlap so many data sets. Like I said, we can look at categories that customers are spending in. We can look at how they've clicked or engaged in different emails or website visits. We can look at different risk models, all kinds of things to make sure that we're tailoring that communication for each individual customer, because nobody wants to be talked to as a segment. Nobody wants to be talked to as a millennial or Gen Z, whatever. They want to be talked to as Jim or David, as an individual. And that's what we found really successful in our marketing.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, personalization is so key because I mean, we all kind of get flooded by emails. But whether it's a partnership or whether it's even just a cold call, if it has relevance to me, I'm going to look at it. And then if it stops having relevance, and particularly if I have a card, and I'm going to stop paying attention to it. I'm just going to move on. So don't waste my time. I'm sure bring me value, and I'm sure that's what you're focusing on, which is great.
Yes.
All right. So as just we've I as a leader, I've made some pivots, certainly in the last year, in terms of the way I manage. But can you I'd love to hear, some of your, how you've changed, if at all. How do you lead differently in a remote situation? This is no longer new, but I think it's still relevant because some people are going back. It's going to be a staggered approach to go back to the office. But just love to hear some insight on that.
Yeah, it's really been a privilege to lead through the pandemic. My team engagement has really skyrocketed based on the leadership pivots that we've made. So I'd say, first of all, is just like with our marketing, we're focused on individual humans. We've really taken a human-centered approach to backing our colleagues. So we're doing things like a weekly icebreaker at our stand-up where we get to know our colleagues outside of work. Asking things like, what's your least favorite chore, or where do you want to travel to when you're able to return to travel, things like that. And that's worked super well in getting to know the person behind the worker that's, meeting the deadline. I've also, learned a lot about letting go and releasing the need to be in control or to be the pace setter, and stepping back and letting the team, I think of it as like a relay race where we pass the baton and the team has been incredibly supportive of each other. One of the things I think is super interesting as well is hiring people in a virtual setting. And I think that one of the things that gets lost is that, like, side by side, hey, I have a quick question. So we've introduced things like, I have, for example, on my team, I have 6 new hires this year because everyone keeps getting promoted. So I have done a lot of recruiting, and I'm actually recruiting right now if anyone's looking for an entry-level role. But we have introduced things like daily, 15-minute side-by-side, just so that people can have that touch point to feel supported and like we care about them as they're learning the ropes.
Yeah, I agree with you. Particularly entry level, sometimes it can be a 30-second walk down the hall to connect 2 dots, and as opposed to, oh, do you have 15 minutes for a Zoom call, etc.
Yeah. Or even just like looking, my leader was just telling me this great story about how kids today don't really know what their parents are doing because they're always on their phone, but like you're on your phone for a variety of reasons. Like in the past, you might be opening up a newspaper to check movie show times, or you might be, looking at a map to figure out where you're going. But all of those tasks, including work emails, are all in the phone. So the visual cues are not sufficient anymore to help people just like shadow and learn. I remember when I started my career at a retail organization, and I would sit next to my electronic production person, and I'd literally watch them like hand kerning the type and checking that the font suitcase had loaded, and all of these things that might have seemed irrelevant to my role as a producer, but really helped me understand the perspective of the different cross-functional members of the team. And so I do think that, you can, like you said, you can replicate that in a virtual setting, but you have to be very intentional about it. It's not, it doesn't just happen serendipitously.
Yeah. And in terms of my, my industry that, who I interface with just predominantly advertising agencies and marketers, but like there will be no in-office interaction for quite some time next year. And I think, that's just, there'll be a slow kind of return, staggered and thoughtful and safe, obviously. But you guys are still working remote, and that's into the foreseeable future.
We'll be back in the fall.
Okay.
hybrid operating model. But like I said, my team has really been thriving this past year in a way that surprised me at first, but in hindsight makes sense because we were so intentional about how we were leading people, making sure that we had, we flattened our org structure a little bit and had more intentional conversations across levels. So my team said, we focused on the expertise, not the title. We've done things like resource planning meetings where as things were changing so fast and this program would stop and this one would start, and making sure that we had the right level of resources devoted to each project. So we have a lot of really great routines baked in there. We also stood up like a monthly operational learnings meeting so that if there was a breakdown from one project, we didn't replicate that across the entire team because a lot of them do similar things. But we would share and document process and things like that. So there are ways to be successful in a virtual environment and to recruit, to onboard, to train. But I will say that my team is particularly excited about coming back to the office and having team lunches and happy hours and things like that.
Yeah, that we just went through that, about a month ago, and it just felt so refreshing. Yeah, just to sit there and laugh with your colleagues, and and not that you weren't doing that on a screen, but doing it in face. It was great. No doubt. So, so far I don't see any questions here, but I'm gonna just throw another one at you. What do you think some of your biggest challenges will be over the next 6 to 12 months? You could say challenge. You could headwinds, tailwinds. Where do you see some of the bigger challenges, and where do you feel you'll be able to pivot?
So what I'll tell you is that my focus as a team, it goes back to the content, data, and technology. And I would say that I'm particularly excited about the data side. As you know, there have been some, privacy changes in the industry that affect emails and pixels and paid media and things like that. But I think that they also create an opportunity for brands like ours that have robust proprietary data to lean into that and synthesize that into relevant communication. I think one of the things that's so interesting about data to me is that for a long time, I think a lot of companies outsourced it, or they sent it offshore, or they just didn't think of it as a product. And they didn't invest in things like consistent tagging when you're doing campaign setups, or clear nomenclature to understand what a table means, or just things that might feel back office. I remember there's a meme I was reading on a social media site where it was talking about someone saying, "Can you send me some quick numbers on this?" And the person had a SQL query where they're like, "Let me open this perfectly pretty data table that does not exist, or chart and graph for you." And for me, I think there's just so much opportunity if you have the cross-functional collaboration between the different teams to identify the source of the data, ensure you're leveraging it in the right way, stitch the sources together, show it to the customer. That's one that I think is particularly tricky, and that is, like I said, it involves the technology integrations, which you can either build or license. And for me, I think it's about identifying, as we launch more and more products and we have robust, I don't know if you can hear my cat, but as you have robust incentive campaigns and things like that, it's really about how do we arbitrate across those different offerings for you, and also how do we not just show the same reason to buy to every single person, but leverage the most meaningful reason to buy for you based on the stage that you are in your buying cycle.
Yeah, back to personalization, and yeah, super smart, and that's great insight. Any seasonality involved in that, or is there a a pre-holiday push or whatever that whatever seasonality, and there may not be, but
so just for us, if you're not in the office working, or if you're not nobody's in the office right now really, but if you're not working, it's not ideal because I target small business customers. So for example, Christmas, not a big day for our revenue. Thanksgiving, Sunday, so we have certain days of the year that we have to normalize for. I think it's hilarious every year when people are like, February is a short month. I'm like, we knew that going into the year. Bake it into the forecast. But I would say like the start of the year when, normal business cycles, like when budgets get approved, people like to spend money and, reassess what their solutions are. We didn't talk a lot about measurement, but one of the ways that we can measure that I find fascinating is we have a holdout for our email communication, and we look at how much customers are spending on the product when they engage versus if they're in the holdout population. And I can tell you that we have, because of our scale, we can reach statistically significant results, and we do see a pretty significant boost based on our loyalty communication. Just reminding customers of things that, we work all day, every day on the American Express brand, but then when you think about the small business owner, it's like a very tiny fraction of their life. Ideally, and that's by design, because if it's working, they shouldn't need to worry about it. But as their business grows and their needs evolve, they might need to tap back in and see what they didn't look at when they first got the card.
Great. Anything else you want to share with the folks in terms of whether it be what are some of your tailwinds? I mean, I think some of the tailwinds for you is the company you work for, obviously, and just the resources. But are there any tailwinds? I think another potential tailwind just for the small business owners, the economy is coming back, and it is a regional thing. For certain cities are further than others and more restrictive, but just curious, where's some of the, what are you more optimistic about for the small business owner?
Yeah, so I'd say two tailwinds are really helpful. One is in terms of unemployment rate. As people hire, their demand or their need for employee cards goes up. So as our unemployment rate falls, our revenue on the employee cards goes up, which is super interesting and like unique for the commercial space. Whereas in the consumer space, like maybe you put your spouse on, maybe your nanny, maybe your kid, 18 years later, but like it's not like a weekly thing where you have to think like, did I hire anyone this week? Do I need an employee card? So I'd say that's one of our tailwinds. And then the other is just our eligibility. So because we're in customer marketing, even if you're a customer, but our risk team has decided you're not eligible because they don't want to take the risk on you, then I can't sell you anything or a particular product because we assess our risk on a product by product level. But during the pandemic, the very beginning of the pandemic, we had great sales on loans, and then we had to pause them. So that's when we pivoted into loyalty. So now we're starting to open that back up, and it's been really helpful for our revenue.
Terrific. Hi, Andrea. Are we're right at 2:00, so
we're right at 2:00.
Stuck the landing.
Thank you so much, David and Jim. David, it was really interesting to learn about all the free resources American Express is offering. I didn't know about those. For the members, those business class live sessions sound really great. One thing I also thought was pretty unique was how you guys moved from weekly emails to daily emails. Great way to just really understand and identify quickly what your customers were needing and wanting to hear from you more, not less, in this time of need. That was really great and interesting to hear about. Thank you both for your time today. Really appreciate you sharing how American Express is engaging more with their customers.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you very much, David.
Have a great rest of your day.
Take care. You too.
Okay, everyone. Wow, what an amazing day so far. And we're not done yet. We have 2 more sessions. Next up, we have a really fun session with Ashley from KFC and Catherine from Ground Truth that my colleague Izzy is going to introduce for us today.